Good, mate. Thank you for fighting your way through LA traffic to
Oh my,
jump on
yeah, I
in.
was, I was coming from Brentwood, like the complete opposite side of town at like rush hour. But I made it.
Yeah, awesome. What was that? Were you working over there, or were you just doing personal stuff over there?
Yeah, I just had a meeting over there. Yeah,
Okay, gotcha. And so, where do we find you now? You're at your studio, at your home
yeah,
studio, or
yeah.
is it your
This is my studio. It's separate from where I live, but like it's like I don't know if you can
nice?
see that very well.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got synths here, and then out here we have um like a little sitting area, cornhole. Um,
nice.
yeah, and then here's the B room. It's like tracking, and some of my interns, Suzanne. Um, yeah, vocal booth, etc.
That's amazing. Thanks for
Thanks.
showing us that. That looks. How long did it take you to set all that up?
Uh, well, I moved in like late March, and then it probably took like a couple months. Like I'm still getting like a few like little things here and there. Like I gotta get like a bass cloud um, up there and shit. But I think it was like functional in like about a couple weeks or so, and then I've just been like kind of changing out gear and stuff like that, and yeah, upgrading shit.
Yeah, nice. What does it mean to you to have your own space?
I like work best in my own space. Like when I have my own gear, like when I have, because I'm very particular about like sonics and engineering as well. So like having my own like gear and setup and like the right interfaces and the right like vocal chain and stuff, like it allows me to like forget the gear and like use it as like an extension of myself creatively. So I can just like I have the synths right here. So like I'll start like playing something on the synth usually, and then I have everything like hooked up, so I can record them all at the same time. And like I really customize, or like I spent a lot of time thinking about the best way for me to like optimize the gear for my creative process. And like for instance, it was important for me to be able to record all of the synths at the same time, so that when I have like friends over here like jamming and stuff, we can play on all five synths at once and be able to record it and like use that as
Right.
in a song or something like that. So I think for me it was like using the gear to best like capture the creative process and make that transition from like the idea to like putting it in the box as like
Sure.
seamless as possible.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And in terms of a lot of the work that you're doing in there at the moment, because I know you're also doing scoring work as well as producing and also as a musician. What is it? Is it an equal divide of time at the moment spent on those sort of different exercises?
Yeah, I think if you add it all up, it's pretty even right now. It kind of like goes in waves though, because like the first half of the year, like I was on like one show as like a pilot, and then for a couple months I was just doing production stuff because we were like looking for more shows, and then I just got hired on this Netflix show. So I'm scoring that, and then this NBC show that I scored last year, we got picked up for season two. So
Congratulations.
we're gonna oh thanks. So we're gonna start that in like I don't know, probably like end of the summer. I'll start working on that. Actually, Phil just joined. Phil Augusta Jackson. He is the
Great.
creator of the show. One of my good friends. We've been working since like I don't know, either 2018 or 2019. But he's like an incredible artist, but also like a writer and producer of TV and film, and he created his own show with NBC, which is just kind of it's inspired by his own life and about his homies, and he loves
Oh.
wine, and now I love wine. And it's called Grand Cru. Season one is out on NBC, Peacock, and Hulu, and that was my first show that I've ever scored. So I really owe all my scoring career to Phil. So shout out Phil.
That's That's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for joining the stream, Phil. So is that something that scoring had that been a long-term goal for you?
Honestly, no, it kind of just fell in my lap. Like when Phil asked me to do the show, I was like, I was super stoked about it, but I didn't know like what that entailed at all. Like I just thought like, oh, like maybe they'll need like a couple songs here and there or something. And then I get the email from like the I don't know, one of the post producers, whatever, like, oh, like you're the composer of the show, like, and I was like, oh, okay, what does that mean? And then one of my good friends growing up, we went to elementary school together. His dad is a composer. He's done some amazing shows. Like he's very experienced and kind of took me under his wing. His name is Roger Neal. But he took me under his wing and kind of showed me the ropes and like how to navigate scoring and how to apply like what I know in the production world to like scoring. Yeah, so I'm grateful for him as well for showing me how to get started.
Yeah. What was the biggest adjustment that you had to make, or the biggest surprise, the biggest thing that surprised you about that world?
Kind of just how much control like the music has in dictating like the tone of the scene and like yeah, for me scoring is just like it's like another creative outlet that's like it's super fulfilling because it's just so different than working with an artist or like producing stuff. Just because like when you're working the picture, it's like you're serving the picture, like that's what you're serving, and like the music can like influence that a lot. And I think like being able to play with like different textures and sounds that I normally don't like gravitate towards when I produce is also fun, and it kind of just it like expands my boundaries and like makes me think outside of the box, and then like think or sounds that I create or ideas that I have like you know when I'm scoring also translates to production. And I definitely there's definitely some like cross pollination, you know, creatively
Right.
with those worlds.
Yeah. And so when you come onto a project like that, how closely do you work with someone like Phil, for example? Is it a really close relationship, or are you left to your own devices? How does that creative partnership work?
Yeah, it kind of depends. With Phil, it was amazing because we were like, I mean, we were already like synced creatively before, just because you know we worked on his album together and we already had like a creative bond. So with that show, it was like an incredible experience to have as the first show that I've composed, because we would sit together in the studio and like watch the scenes, and like I would be scoring, you know, real time, or like I would play him what I've done, and he'd be like, oh, I like this here, like maybe it should go in another direction here. So we really got in the weeds with that, which was fun because you know it's fun to see, you know, his perspective on it and like where the music should go. And now we're just about to like dive into season 2, and we're having like creative talks and kind of
Nice.
seeing how far we can push the envelope and really make the show better in the second season.
Yeah, nice one. We had had a guest on the live stream last week called Ryan Svensson,
Yeah, I
who
love Ryan.
you know, I was going to
Yeah,
say
yeah,
who's in the film world and the TV world as a music supervisor. And of course, your other link to him is Industry Baby,
yeah.
because Ryan played trumpet on Industry Baby, and of course, you look after the trombone. And I mean, it's more than that, I guess. You kind of came up with that whole horn section. It sounds like a really interesting process of getting to that point. It wasn't something that you necessarily set out to do to work with Lil Nas X, but you had started creating a packet of horn samples, is that right? And you sent them to the producer, Take a Day Trip.
Mhm.
And it just so happened that Lil Nas X was looking for horn loops. Is that how that whole sort of process worked?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was looking back on it, it was very serendipitous. It was like a lot of luck, to be honest, because like I mean, even for a song to do that well, so many things have to go right. But from the very like inception of it, it was really just me like. So it was peak COVID. It was like summer 2020, and my manager Max, we've been like homies since like middle school, and we do strategy talks pretty regularly. So we were doing a strategy call, and we were like, oh, how can we like really do something different? Like, how can we take advantage of, you know, of this new landscape with COVID and everything? Like, how can we make it work, pretty much? And I think a couple of days before that, I was on the phone with another producer colleague of mine. He's incredible. His name is Julia Lewis, And he was saying like man, like you play trombone, like start using the horn, like maybe make some horn loops. And so I tried just making some horn loops for fun, because it's like I put horns on songs before then, but it wasn't like the main element of the song. So it's like, okay, let me see like what I can do with the trombone, because that's my main instrument. So yeah, my background is like classical and jazz trombone.
Yeah.
So I just started like messing around with like the horns, and I made like a pack of, I don't know, 10 to 20 loops. And it was just me. It wasn't like for anything specific. I just made it because I wanted to make it.
Yeah.
It was fun for me. And then at the same time, Max got connected / like reconnected with Denzel of Take a Day Trip, and we got on the phone together, and he said like, oh yeah, Lil Nas X is looking for like trombone specifically, like not like any just horns in general, but like trombone specifically.
Yeah.
I think he said like because he liked the timbre of the instrument, and I think he used to play trumpet in high school, if I remember that correctly. So I was like, oh, perfect. Like I have a whole sample pack that is made of horn stuff. So I sent that over to Denzel, and then I didn't know what happened to it for a while, and then I think in like the fall or something, Lil Nas posted he leaked the song snippet on Instagram, and I was like pulling up to the studio one morning on my phone, and then I was scrolling and I see the video, and it's like Lil Nas and then David and Dan's like doing like a little choreographed like dance routine to the song, and then I was like, oh, this sounds good, and then I realized, oh wait, this is like my loop.
Right.
The loop was called Parade at the time, and then and I was like, I texted him, I was like, yo, this sounds fire. And we kind of just kept working on it. We did it was Den's idea to do the intro. He was like, I've said this in other like interviews before, but like the reference for the intro was like a royal fanfare. Like he sent me a clip of Shrek 2. So I just tried like, I think we did like 3 or 4 different intro passes, and then and then we finally landed on the one that's in the song now. So that was fun. Just kind of like I don't know, it just felt super out of the box and like creative, and just making it for fun. I had no idea like it was gonna actually come out or anything.
Sure.
Yeah, and then we got in the studio, I think in like March with Lil Nas, and then made we recorded all the horns for the the outro. It used to be the bridge, but it was the outro. So we recorded that with it was like me and then the engineer Drew, and we were like putting the mic in like different places around the room. Like I think we even put it out like outside once, and we were just trying to make it sound like a full like marching band and get like different tones so that it would sound like all these different people playing, except it was really me. The whole process was it was super fun.
So what are you thinking at that point when you're working on what became the end, but was perhaps a bridge when you were working on it? Are you just thinking, I mean, do you have any idea that this could do anything? Obviously, I presume you knew it was a good song by that point. As it started to take off, was it just every day was, oh wow, now it's hit this level, oh wow, now it's hit this level? Was it that sort of just, I guess you just have to surrender to it and just watch it go and see where it goes?
Yeah, I mean, I had like, I try to just give myself like no expectations, like in general, and whatever the universe does with it happens. But yeah, I mean, I had no idea it was gonna do what it did, and it's still like looking back on it, like it's still like wild. Like I have no idea like how that happened or how I got here, but like I don't know, like the craziest part is like having people DM me like yeah, our marching band just played this at like our football games. Like my sister's in college right now. She's like, the marching band just played your song at like the football game, and or like people DM me and be like, oh my god, you made like trombone cool again. Like thank you so much. And I was like, it's just crazy how like much reach that and literally the melody for the main horn line like like that was just something, and this rarely happens to me either, too, like when I create things, but the melody kind of just popped into my head randomly. I was like,
Right.
oh shit, like I like this, I should record it, and I just recorded it and did the harmonies and stuff. But it's crazy how like something from that just appeared in my brain is now
That's it.
everywhere.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you heard it outside of the studio? The first time you were just in the car or anywhere and you heard the song?
I don't remember the first time. I remember the first time it came on the radio, and that was pretty cool because I grew up in LA, so like, we spend most of our time in the car and listening to the radio and stuff, and I would always, like, when I was growing up, I'd listen to like Kiss FM, like 102.7 and shit, and then I think that was the first station I heard it on or something. Yeah, so that was pretty surreal.
Right. So when you get those DMs saying that, the school marching band just played that song, what does what does that mean to you? Because obviously you were very passionate about trombone at school yourself, and presumably very involved. I don't know if you would have been involved in the marching band, but it was a big part of your upbringing, your education. Um, to know that it's being used in that context, does that make it extra special for you?
Yeah, it's very well. To be honest, I never played in a marching band. Like when I first started trombone, like I was in like first I was in the beginning band, and I was in like the orchestra and like like wind ensembles and stuff like that, and then started doing jazz.
Mm,
So I've actually never played in a marching band, but to have it in that like school band context was very full circle.
right.
That that's my roots. Like that's where I started. That's where I fell in love with music, was with the trombone.
Mm.
And for that to like become what it did is very full circle.
Yeah. Why do you think jazz resonated with you so much? Because that was your focus at school, wasn't it? That was a passion
Yeah,
of yours?
yeah. I was majoring in jazz. I don't know. I just like, there's just something about it like that I just like love. Like I love classical music still, but like jazz was like exciting. Like in eighth grade, I think it's probably the improvisation of it. Like when
Mm.
I learned how to improvise in eighth grade, I would like sit after class. My friend Theo Lee, he plays piano. He's a producer now too, but we started learning jazz at the same time. And like we would like try to jam with each other like before class, in the band room, like playing like an E flat blues called Sandu. Um,
Right.
and we would try to like teach each other how to improvise. And I think just it was just so much fun. Like
Yeah.
improvising was fun. Like playing jazz was fun. Because before I started trombone, I was like doing classical piano lessons, which is very rudimentary, very like you play what's on the page, and there's
Mm.
much freedom in that as there is when you're like improvising in a jazz ensemble. So I think having that like musical freedom to like create things with other people like on the spot was like really new and exciting for me. And then also with that, like in middle school, I didn't have that many friends, but like in the jazz program, it was like that's where where I found my people, like where I found my community, and like middle school,
Right.
high school, like with music and musicians, and so I think that also helped draw me to that path in general.
Yeah, nice one. And Ryan Svensson just joined the stream. We were
Oh
talking
shit! Hey
about
Ryan,
Ryan earlier. So
what's up,
Ryan,
Ryan?
your ears must be burning. So from that point then to get to New York and to go to Juilliard, how much work did you have to put in?
It was a lot of work. I was like practicing like at least 3 hours a day, which is a lot for like a brass instrument because your lips get tired quickly. But
Right?
like I would, um, I remember I would like make a goal for myself. Like I couldn't go to bed until I've practiced at least for X amount of time, or something. I did it every day. Like I wouldn't take a single day off. Like practicing,
Right.
like Friday nights I'd be practicing, like the weekend practice, like um, so it's just like I was just so focused on that. Like I gave up like a lot of my social life in high school. Like I was just just kind of locked into the practice room. Or like when I was living at my parents' house, I think I practiced either mostly in like the living room, or like when my parents went to bed at like 11 or 12 p.m. I'd go into the basement and like bring my music stand down there and just practice in the basement. So they
Right.
could hear it. Yeah, and then it's just like repetition. And I didn't know like that was the key to getting better. I just kind of just did it. It just felt right. Like, let me just do this over and over again. Like, trombone's a fucking hard instrument too. So it's like you have
Right.
to work on a lot of fundamentals before you can really like express yourself on the instrument, because it's technically pretty difficult.
Yeah.
So, yeah, even when I was at Juilliard, it was like I would wake up at like 7 and then be in the practice room by like 7:30 or 8, and then start with like an hour. Oh no, start with like breathing exercises and like stretching, and then do like an hour of just like long tones and like scale exercises or something like that. And then maybe practice like I was still practicing like classical etudes and stuff like that, just to get like my chops like in the best shape.
Sure.
Yeah, so I was like really intense about it.
Yeah. Was it intimidating, the Juilliard, or were you just so prepared for it that you fit right in?
Well, I went to I transferred to an arts high school like the last 2 years of high school, so junior and senior year.
Mm.
And I think it's called LACSA, the LA County High School for the Arts, and I think that school like prepared me really well for the conservatory environment.
Okay.
But yeah, but even that, it was still like I think, I don't know, I was just taking it all in, because like the coolest part was like being surrounded and like being in one place with everyone who's like ridiculously talented, and who
Mm.
like it's like you look at them, it's like you can't believe like that they can, do this at such a high level,
Sure.
which was really really cool. um yeah, I forgot the original question, but yeah, Julia was,
Oh,
it was a unique experience, I'll say that.
sure,
Yeah, because
sure.
towards
But
the
you,
end, I grew not to like it as much.
no, that's right. But that did that also coincide with? I know you've done a little bit of production learning anyway, but then your grandfather passed, and you decided to produce a song for his memorial. Was that, and then that I guess, was it that moment that lit the spark in you for production, and made you think that production might be more where you wanted to head as opposed to
Hmm.
following trombone?
Yeah. That was like the epiphany. That was the moment. That was like freshman year, in the winter. Yeah, so my grandfather passed, and well, the first time I started producing was like, well, I guess I was like messing around with GarageBand as like a kid, but I guess I don't count that. So the summer after high school, I like took a music production workshop with one of my high school teachers, who's now or became one of my mentors, Jason Goldman, and he like did a crash course on production and on Logic Pro, which is the software I use, and
Hmm.
that was like the first time I started messing around with producing music and making music in that way. Um, and then when my grandfather passed, my cousin, who would write songs for fun, we wrote a song together, and I like produced it for the memorial service. I think we did 2 songs, I think. Um, yeah, and then after that, I think it was a combination of like my realizing that New York and the jazz scene in New York wasn't what I thought it would be initially,
Hmm.
and like what I um, really wanted to do long term. And then the motions of my grandfather, etc. And then just like kind of discovering production more and like falling in love with that, and um, yeah, so that it was like a catalyst um, around the winter of like 2015 or something.
Right. Okay. And was that what was that conversation like with your parents then, saying, all right, I'm just going to leave, I'm leaving Juilliard, I'm coming back to LA, because production, I think, is where my future sits.
Uh, that was a pretty tough conversation. That was um that was like the probably the rockiest part of my relationship with my parents, because they've always been supportive of music. Like you know, putting me in piano lessons, like supporting me with everything I wanted to do with the trombone and jazz, and doing summer programs with that. And I was very fortunate to have their support, you know, to go to Juilliard and everything. But like, I think where our mindsets differ was like you don't need a degree to you know, do well in the music industry.
Hmm.
And I knew that back then, and I had a gut feeling that like I just had to leave school now. But they wanted me to finish the degree and have, you know, to have the safety net, and you know, because they're very like degree focused, when I didn't really see the value in the degree as much as they did.
Mm.
Yeah, so that was like, yeah, it was a tough, it was a lot of just back and forth, a lot of like me trying to like convince them, and you know, and you know, my whole family too, they're very like, I think it's also an Asian thing too, like being stressing the importance of going to university, and getting a good education, um, and there is a lot of value in education, but for what I wanted to do, like I just didn't think it was the right use of my time. Um,
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
but yeah,
Well, one
we're on the same page now.
That's good. That's good. One of the things I think I'd read is that when you went back to LA and you started getting into the production game, you wrote up a game plan, which I guess was a bunch of strategies on how you get to where you wanted to go. What was in that? What kind of things were in that game plan? And was it doing that a sense of, you know, if I write it down, I will, if I visualize it, I will make it happen.
Yeah, I think it was. I don't even know if I still have the document, to be honest, but I think it was stuff like cold call like these A&Rs, or like take meetings with these people, and like just very like tangible things, because like Asian parents especially like want to see like, it can't just be like, oh, I have an idea, and like it has to be like, oh, I'm gonna do this and this and this, and like this is like, you know, like the steps to get to where I want to be.
Mm.
That's what I did. Like I just kind of laid it out, like methods to get to where I wanted to go. Um, and I think that helped them see like that I was like serious about, you know, what I wanted to pursue, and like that I was set on, you know, this new path and producing.
Right.
Um, yeah.
Were you comfortable cold calling people?
Uh, it was more like cold emailing, I think. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever cold called someone, but I definitely sent cold emails.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're okay with that? Like you were happy to put yourself out there and
Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool. And so at this point, so you back team you mentioned Max, your manager earlier. Had you teamed up with Max at this point?
Um, well, Max and I, we officially started working together in 2017, I believe. But we were like, ever since we got to New York in like 2015, we had kind of been like planting the seeds. Like he went to NYU, so I would always go down to NYU to like hang with him and like listen to music, or like just talk about creative stuff. And then he would come up to Juilliard, and I would show him the stuff I was working on, and it kind of turned into like, um, he wanted to start representing me and like help, you know, realize my career. But really it was just like we were just so aligned creatively from
Mm.
the beginning, and that's something that I'll never take for granted either. Just having him in my corner is like, it's everything. Like
Mm.
it's just, he's like the rock. Like he's one of my best friends, like the one of my day ones, and like now we're business partners, and we've built everything together from the ground up. Like we both knew nothing about the industry when we started, and it was a lot of learning, a lot of mistakes, a lot of trial and error. But it's really rewarding when you figure it out together and you have a partner, to kind of learn with,
Yeah.
and someone who's in the same boat. And and it's still the same way. It's like we're still learning. We still have only scratched the surface, you know, in music, and we're still like, yeah, we're still learning. We're still getting inspired by different things. We're still figuring it out, honestly, and it's kind of the same as when we started.
Yeah. Can you think, I'm sure there were many lessons which you learned together, but can you think of one which really stood out as just being so fundamental to the way you operated and continue to operate?
Um, hmm. There are a bunch. If I had to say one, like I don't know, to be honest. It's like it's a mix of a bunch of different things.
Sure.
I mean, we like I was saying earlier with the strategy talks, like we always like sit down and like really calculate like how we want to get to a certain place, or like what am I doing now, and like how is this going to affect me in 5 years, like how am I shaping my career, how am I shaping my brand, and it's very like methodical. It's very like we think about it a lot, and we think about how we can provide value to people. We think about like how we can help other people around us, and like right now we've been trying to, I guess you could call it, like develop or like mentor like younger producers who we really believe in, and
Right.
yeah, and kind of like pay it forward, and stuff like that.
Okay. And there he is in the comments saying, just the beginning.
Oh yeah.
There was a question before from Lolly Kim, and she was asking, or they were asking, why did you choose Juilliard over Berkeley when you were interested in jazz?
I mean, Juilliard was like, the name has like all the prestige, and it's like the, you know, the cream of the cream of the top of the, whatever the saying.
Cream of the crop, yeah.
Cream of the crop, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, that was, I remember I was in, I don't know, 8th grade or 9th grade, maybe 10th grade. I was in one of the grades, and they made us write a letter to ourselves, and like me being like myself, I wrote a bullet point list instead of an actual letter, but I was like making a list of goals and stuff, and I don't know, maybe like the last bullet point was like get into Juilliard.
Wow.
And yeah, so I did. So like it was a goal of mine for a while, and I think just I mean, because I toured all the conservatories. Like I toured Manhattan School of Music, like Miami, like Berkeley, like NEC and stuff. But there's something about the people and like the program that appealed to me most about Juilliard, and yeah, I think that,
Yeah.
I can't. It was so long ago. I'm trying to remember like anything else that
Sure.
stuck out about the school besides like, you know, the prestige, and you know the type of program it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, they sound like good reasons. You've spoken a couple of times about your Asian heritage and how that may have guided you in some of the ways that you've operated. And I think I read an interview with you where you were saying it's relatively recently that you'd, I guess, started to accept your identity in a professional sense, perhaps.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So it was a mindset shift. Like initially, for a long time, I wanted people to like know me for the music. Like I wanted people to care about the music more than like what I look like. Like I wanted people to see like my music or hear my music, and like, you know, not care about anything else, like my background, my race, etc. And then the mindset shift was like it was the opposite of that. It's like I want people to see me as an Asian American producer. Like I'm 4th generation Asian American, and since there aren't that many of us in the industry, like I wanted people to see that like someone that looks like me can, you know, do things and get to the level that I've gotten to, you know, by being you know, a person of color, like by being Asian, and like how could I take my identity and like use that best to my advantage.
Mm.
And around that mind shift or that mindset switch, like that's when I started like diving more into like K-pop stuff and like using the fact that Max is Korean. I'm not Korean, but Max is Korean. You know, he speaks Korean, so that makes it easier to like liaise with like the artists and the K-pop labels and stuff. And I think we both just have a really good understanding of like the K-pop industry and like the K-pop sound and the American sound and like how we can kind of meld the two, which I think works to our advantage. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and like just like being able to stick out like out of a crowd, like how to, you know, because I don't look like everyone else. Like the majority of producers aren't looking like me,
Mm.
so that's great. Like then I'm more memorable, like in theory. Um,
Sure.
yeah.
Did you have anyone that you could look up to when you were coming up through the ranks that I guess was of Asian American heritage, or another culture that you could sort of see someone else doing it that you could follow in their footsteps, or did you have to just forge that path?
Yeah, yeah. There were like, I mean, there are a handful of people who have like paved the way, and I'm still meeting more of them. But like one of our first uh, like mentors slash like big brother figures was Kev Nish of Far East Movement. So they're, I think people would most know them for that song like a G6.
Hmm.
But they were like they really were groundbreaking as like Asian American artists. I think that was like the first Asian American like artist to hit like #1 on Billboard, something like that. Like it was they're really groundbreaking, and they kind of like Kev has always been so gracious with his time with us, and like anything we need, like he has our back, um, and would always give us advice and kind of help us out, and you know everyone I meet, like another person, John Yip of the Stereotypes. Um, I met him more recently than I met Kev, but he like has also become, you know, that kind of big brother figure, and I think that in general, Asian Americans in the music industry it's kind of like passing the torch down. It's like, you know, that generation like passing the torch to me and like my
Mm.
colleagues and everything, you know, and I'm trying to do that for, you know, the younger generation, and I think it's just like we kind of share the same experience of being Asian in the industry, and that connects us, and that like um, makes us want to help each other out and lift each other up.
Nice one. And you mentioned K-pop earlier. Just quickly working with CL. How did you find that process?
CL is like one of my favorite artists to work with. She's very like the first time I met her, it's she made it very clear it's all about like the message. It's all about like the message and like the lyrics and everything. And yeah, we spent a lot of time on her last album. Like we did so many songs together. Like the first time we worked, we did I think a couple sessions like in person in LA, and we just did a bunch of songs then. I can't remember how many, but we worked on a bunch of ideas and recorded a bunch of stuff, and then the whole rest of the album, like um, it was all remote. Like we would be texting back and forth and like you know, trying different. She would give me different song ideas to work on and stuff like that. It was really like an equal like creative partnership. Like she would really value like what I had to say and
Mm.
my opinion as a producer, which is always like amazing when you have that type of relationship with the artist. You know, and she like whenever I go to her show, she always takes care of us, and yeah, she's really an amazing person to work with.
Yeah, nice. Last couple of things, Nick. Thank you for being so generous with your time. You've mentioned once or twice strategizing and figuring out where you might want to be in 5 years, or putting together some sort of plan. When you have such a huge success like Industry Baby with Lil Nas X, and obviously you're responsible for the horns on that, is there part of you which has to go, I need to embrace that and go through the doors it opens, but how do I not get pigeonholed as that's all I do. Is that something that you also had to try and think about?
Yep, that's the million dollar question, to be honest. That's like, I don't think I've still figured that out, honestly. I think my answer now is like, I just want to create the music that I like making, and if I believe it's like what people should hear and like what I think the world needs right now, and like as long as I'm making music that I like, I think the rest is gonna fall into place. But definitely that it took a while for me to like, how many horn, things should I do? Like how many tracks should I make? Because I didn't start out doing horns. Like the horns I was good at it because my background is in trombone and stuff. Well, like as a producer, like most of the stuff I work on doesn't have horns, and like I engineer, like I vocal produce, like I play keys and stuff. I do everything that a producer needs to do and across a lot of genres. And I wanted people to see like that versatility and like the full scope of my work and everything. So, but at the same time, it's like that the horns were the calling card. So I wasn't gonna say no to things like, just because it was a horn thing. I didn't want to pigeonhole myself. So yeah, it's still a struggle, but I think like now I'm just happy with the music that I'm making right now, and that's all that matters.
Totally. Nick, thanks so much for your time. It's been really great to chat with you. I appreciate you taking the time out of your. It's been an absolute pleasure. So hopefully we'll speak again soon, and look forward to seeing more music coming out of that place where you're sitting right now.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Take care, mate. Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Bye.